Hey guys, what's up? We are two awesome men and we are back. We were gone for about a month or so. We had ran out of money. We got really low on money. So we were able to get Adobe Creative Cloud, and so which really stopped us. And then finally we were able to get it. And this guy got extremely sick last week.
Yeah,
so,
like my voice was completely out. Like it sounded so weird. It sounded like I was going through puberty again.
yeah, so we're back now. We're gonna make sure that we actually are able to get at least a video a week, if possible more. We have Jake in the room, so he's gonna be making noise. But today we're gonna do something a little different. I usually watch a lot of Chris Stuckman videos, so I saw that he did a video because he was gone for a little bit, where he actually did like several reviews in one video, like quick reviews. Because we have been seeing a few things here and there in that whole month that we've been gone. So we want to make sure that we do. Sorry,
Keep up with our health.
my childish jokes. But that we actually do have these reviews out there. And I'm sorry, we're gonna be quick ones, so we're not gonna be able to go in depth like we usually do. So here we go. We're gonna start off with the two movies that came out today, and we are gonna start off with Bumblebee.
You got people out there who need you.
Which is strange that they brought out these two huge movies on the same day.
Yeah.
They didn't really plan that out well.
Yeah. And I actually did enjoy this movie a lot. I thought it was the best Transformers movie. For me, I felt like all the other ones, even the first one, which is probably the best out of all those, out of all the original, like the Shia LaBeouf movies and like all those movies. But I never actually thought they were like really greatly written movies. They're definitely enjoyable. I definitely like them a lot. The first one, anyways. But this one I actually felt like it was just a well-grounded story, a lot more grounded than the other ones. But me and Zach actually do disagree on this movie.
Yeah, I'm a guy who actually decently liked some of the Transformers movies. I thought the second and fifth one were pretty terrible, but I decently liked the other ones. But this one, going into it, I had high hopes for it because I heard that it was a different director. It's not Michael Bay directing it. So I had kind of high hopes that they go with a different feel for it. And they did. But I think one of the major points that I didn't like about this movie was a lot of it, I don't know how to really explain it, but especially with the military side, I just felt it was kind of cartoonish, which, I mean, it's Transformers, so I expected some of that to be in there, but I felt it kind of overtook a lot of the movie to where it didn't feel like an actual movie, I guess, to say. It just felt a little too cartoonish with what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I did like this movie a lot, but probably my biggest complaint with this movie is it does seem to take a lot from movies that are very similar to it, especially movies like Iron Giant, which the director did say that this movie was inspired by the Iron Giant, but there's also a lot of other movies that it kind of reminds me of a lot. So I feel like even though it's a lot really grounded and it's one of the better Transformers in my opinion, I really feel like it really wasn't extremely original. It could have been a lot more original. Also, I felt like John Cena wasn't a good actor. I don't know why they keep putting him in movies. I never found him to be a good actor.
Yeah, I mean, it did add to the cartoonish feel. I especially didn't like the mom. The actress who played the mom I thought was pretty terrible.
Yeah. But Haley Steinfeld is fantastic.
Yeah, definitely.
There is another character that's a friend of hers that got right before annoying for me. He seemed like he was going towards that one dude in the last Jurassic World movie that was screaming all the time. But he seemed like a more kind of grounded version, a more realistic, fearful version of that kind of character. So I didn't mind him that much. I'm going to say that Bumblebee is 85% awesome.
And I'm going to say that Bumblebee is 65% awesome.
I'm no leader. I came because I have no choice.
Our next movie we're going to talk about is Aquaman, and this is a movie that both me and him also have very different opinions on. I felt like this movie, to me, out of all the DC movies, was the one that's right in the middle. I feel like there's movies that are worse than it in DC, obviously, and I feel like there's movies that are better than it in DC. I don't really necessarily even know if I completely like this movie. There's things about it that I do really enjoy, but overall I don't really like it that much.
Yeah, and like you said, we have differing opinions on this one too, because I honestly feel like this was one of the top DCEU movies, which isn't saying a lot, I guess, but I still do think it's up there with Man of Steel and Wonder Woman. And I think it was like a true masterpiece because it was just such a epic movie. Like the costume design, the production design, the visual effects, everything was just like so fantastic. Like the only time I ever thought the visual effects were kind of faulty was whenever they were like a few times when they're underwater, their hair would flow and you could kind of tell it was CGI.
Yeah.
Especially with Dolph Lundgren. But overall, I just thought visually it was just a masterpiece. Story wise, I felt like there were some faults in that, but overall, I think it held up to what the visual effects held it up to.
Yeah, I will agree with that. I actually thought it was a visual masterpiece. I thought pretty much all the CGI was really good, almost all of it. Like you said, some of the hair and when they're underwater a lot of times. There's a lot of times when they were in front of backgrounds that you could obviously tell were fake. And the movie to me just didn't feel real. And don't be an idiot about it, please, because I don't like whenever people come up to me and it's like, oh, well, it's not real. It doesn't seem real because it's a superhero movie. I don't mean that. I mean within the world that they built for us. I feel like within that world, it doesn't seem real. A lot of it doesn't seem real, all that stuff, all the CGI aside, I felt like it just wasn't feel authentic to me. Nothing actually felt authentic. I will say I like Jason Momoa as Aquaman a lot more than I have in the past. Especially, well, he was playing one other movie, but like in Justice League, I hated him in Justice League. I liked him a lot more in this. The acting, I just did not like from two people. Mainly, I hated it from Patrick Wilson, who I usually love as an actor. I just felt like his acting was over the top a lot.
Yeah.
This is an over the top movie.
Yeah, that is one thing I was gonna say, that this is an over the top movie. So some people, I can see how some people might not like it, but it worked for me.
Yeah,
for the most part.
Yeah, and I actually have seen a lot of people who do like this movie a lot, and that's fine. But like, I just couldn't ever see how it was real. But there was a certain point in which afterwards, I pretty much thought everything after that was pretty good. There was a part when they're like in Italy or Sicily, I think it was.
Yeah, I think that's in the trailer.
Yeah, and it's like they're like in Sicily, and after that, there's a whole action scene that I love, and even after that, everything was pretty good. But even after that, even within there, it just didn't feel authentic to me whatsoever. It just felt crazy fake to me. And like I said, just CGI aside, it just felt fake within the world they built for me.
Yeah, and also adding on to what he was talking about with the action scene, the action scenes in this movie are probably some of the best I've ever seen.
Yeah.
In any movie, not just superhero movies, but any kind of movie.
So I'm going to say that Aquaman is 65% awesome.
I'm going to say Aquaman is 88% awesome.
Remember, what makes you different? Let's go! Is what makes you Spider-Man.
So here we are for Into the Spiderverse, which was a movie last week, which I loved. To me, it was probably the best Spider-Man movie since like Spider-Man 2. I liked it.
And I almost would put it up. Yeah, I probably would put it on the same level as Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, which is surprising. I wasn't expecting it to actually be this good.
Yeah, no, especially coming with Sony Animations, who just came out with the Emoji Movie last year. I kind of didn't really have that high of hopes for this movie until I heard that it was pretty good, and I got excited for it.
It was weird because it really shouldn't be as good as it was. Kind of like Infinity War, where there's just so many things going on and there's so many characters that it just doesn't seem like it was a good idea.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is coming from the director of like Lego Movie and 21 Jump Street and stuff like that.
Yeah,
the people who have in the past showed us, hey, you can get a bad idea and make something great. And these are directors that I've realized now, which by now I've realized, okay, just trust them. These directors, you can just trust them. Give them something. Give them the crappiest. Like, you could probably give these guys Emoji Movie, and they would have made something really good out of it. But they weren't given Emoji Movie, unfortunately. But what was fantastic about this movie for me is they delved into issues I didn't think that we're going to at all.
It's a pretty dark movie. I mean, it is a cartoon, it's a Spider-Man movie, so it is for little kids for the most part. But they did do some dark things that I didn't expect it. Yeah,
they even delved into depression, and they never directly stated it as depression, but you knew that was depression. There were certain things he said, there were certain actions he did or was about to do characters that you're like, okay, these people have depression. They don't actually know what's going on. They don't really know what to do with themselves. You know, and I felt like all of the voice acting, most of the voice acting was really good. Even from the guy who played Peter Parker.
Jake Johnson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I like, even especially on the trailers, like I was like, when the first trailer came out that he was in, I didn't really like his voice as Spider-Man. Like I was kind of scared to see this movie because I didn't really like his voice as Peter Parker. But in the movie, it just fits so well. His voice just fits the character so well with what they did, what the story was going for.
Yeah, and one of the most perfect castings I have seen this year is Nicolas Cage as Spider-Man Noir. That is one of Nicolas Cage, buddy, right here. One of the most perfect castings this entire year.
Yeah.
And the comedy in this movie is just fantastic and perfect, man.
Which is expected from was it Chris Miller? Or is it Phil Lord? I know it's just one of them.
I can't remember.
The guy who did the Lego movie.
Yeah, and like it was really good because Spider-Man Noir isn't really a character we consider like that funny, but they knew how to use them to actually make jokes, and just the movie really blended very well together.
Yeah, and something we haven't talked about yet is the animation for this movie was just so spectacular. Like it's so innovative because I haven't seen any animation like that. It literally looked like a comic book come to life. Like a few movies have tried to do it, but this movie is like one of the first times I actually felt like it was an actual comic book come to life. I will say a few times I did notice some flaws in the animation. Some of the background characters
they kind of bugged my eyes a little bit.
And sometimes it looked like whenever you take your 3D glasses off during a 3D movie, it kind of looked like that. But it just happened every now and then. For the most overall, the animation was just amazing.
Yeah. And if there's any other issues I can point out, one of my biggest issues probably, and if there's any flaws I can think about for this movie, it would be Kingpin, the villain of this movie. I felt like his character, they gave him motivation, right at what he needed. Like, they gave him motivation for doing what he was doing, and it made sense. But then it was never like anything they capitalized on. It was something they could have went a little bit more with at the end to make him not seem like just the big bad guy, you know? But at the same time, it's kind of understandable.
Yeah, I do agree. That is kind of one of my biggest issues. But probably even bigger than that is the Prowler, which I'm not going to go into any spoilers. But I feel like they could have used him more. I know he was more of a secondary villain, so I understand they didn't want him to take over the movie because Kingpin was the main villain. But I feel like they could have used him more.
Yeah, and then my other one is the guy who voiced Miles Morales. Was a very good voice actor, but every once in a while his voice kind of went a little. It wasn't the best. Every once in a while, the emotional scenes.
Yeah, I honestly felt that way about most of the voice actors in this movie. Overall, I liked all the voice actors, but every now and then there'd be a couple of people who I felt just were a little off.
So I'm going to say that Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse is 88% awesome.
And I'm going to say Into the Spiderverse is 93% awesome.
What do you do with those people?
Next up is Overlord, a movie that really wasn't that great of a movie. I don't want to go out there and say that was anything great or phenomenal, but it definitely was extremely enjoyable.
Yeah, going into it, I want to say that the very first trailer that me and Marquez saw, I can't remember what movie we were in, but when we saw the first trailer for this movie for the first time, it just looked completely awful.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know who put the trailer together, but it looked completely awful. Like, I had literally no interest in it.
Yeah, it was like some weird where they played I can't remember what song it was, but they played
some rock song.
Yeah, it was a really famous rock song. I can't remember what it is, but and they just like kept playing it and stopping it, playing it. It was like, it's like an extremely stupid trailer.
Yeah, so like I didn't really know what to expect from it. But then as the movie came closer to release, I did see a few trailers that made me interested in it. And when we saw it, I honestly liked it a lot. Like Marquez said, it's not like a great movie. It's not like something I'd recommend over a lot of other movies, but it is definitely enjoyable.
Yeah. In this movie, though, the characters, they're not really much of anything. I will say, because I did get the same complaint to like Kong Skull Island, so I do want to explain why I like this movie more than Kong Skull Island. And that's because with Kong Skull Island, it's almost like the characters were nothing. Like, you don't, in Kong Skull Island, there's like nothing in the characters at all. In these characters, you do actually get to see them a little bit more. There's less characters in this movie, so you do have those intimate moments with them. Those more time moments, especially the main character, you get to be with him a lot more. So you're actually able to get somewhat involved with him and somewhat worried about whether or not he's going to die or not. So I will say that the characters aren't completely nothing in this movie. They're just not a lot. They could have done a lot more with the characters. Another big problem with this movie is there was barely any zombies in this movie.
Yeah, like I think they only used it like once or twice.
Yeah.
And the main zombie guy.
Yeah.
But other than that, they didn't really do much of anything, which is disappointing because the zombies in this movie were actually like really creepy.
Yeah, they're some of the creepiest zombies I've ever seen.
Exactly. So they could have utilized it so much, especially since like towards the end of the movie, there's one part where like they're about to release like a whole bunch, and I was like, yes, this is what I've been waiting for in this movie. But then like nothing came of it.
Yeah,
it's like they could have used it so much more.
So I'll say that, and the acting was actually pretty good in this movie. I liked the acting a lot. There was a very good feeling of high intensity throughout the entire movie. Mm-hmm. So it was definitely extremely enjoyable. Just not like a great movie or even really that much of a good movie overall. I'm going to say that Overlord is 68% awesome.
I'm going to say Overlord is 67% awesome.
The last two things we're going to review are two TV shows that are on Netflix, and we are starting off with The House on Haunting Hill.
The House on Haunting Hill.
The
Haunting of Hill House.
Oh, that's right. That's a different movie. The Haunting of Hill House. There you go.
You don't have to worry now, sweetie. That really bad dream? Of course I'd wake you.
This is a show that's actually been extremely popular within everybody I've ever talked to. In fact, I didn't watch it for at least maybe 2-3 weeks after it came on.
Yeah, we waited a little while.
Yeah, and this show took me by surprise quite a bit because I was expecting something good because everybody was talking about it. But I'm not going to even act like I was really that interested in watching it for a little bit. But this show really is fantastic.
One of the things I liked the most about this show was they went back and forth in time between when they were kids at the house and the present time when they're adults, and like they made it flow so well, especially because like each episode, the flashbacks that they would go to when they're in the house actually pertained to what they were talking about and what was going on in the present. So it really worked so well.
Yeah, and there was one episode, I can't remember which episode it was. There was one where it was just a whole bunch of long shots.
Oh, yeah. It was a funeral.
Yeah, and that episode was just beautiful. That episode was just beautiful. And this show was actually pretty creepy. It's one of the it's scarier than most horror movies that I've seen, you know. And I even, big thing, I think this show has like 43 ghosts or something like that.
Something like that.
Like a lot of ghosts hidden in the background of the show that a lot of people won't even catch. And I think that's what made the show so creepy, is because your mind you probably see them, you just don't really notice them, and so you just have this on-edge feeling throughout the entire show.
Yeah, because they would just have them in the background. They wouldn't dress them like at all. Yeah. They just have them in the background, and if you didn't notice them, you wouldn't even think about it. Jake.
And the characters in this show were just so well thought out. It was insane. I loved all the characters in this show.
Yeah, especially since like there's so many characters. Like it was a house of, it was a family of what, like 5 or 6 people, and each one had their an entire arc devoted to them.
Yeah, it was so. There were scenes in this show that were just beautiful, like absolutely beautiful. The show didn't have many jump scares, and I'm not a huge fan of jump scares, and I don't mind them. But this show maybe had one or so jump scares. But the jump scare that was in this show had been one of the best jump scares I've ever seen.
Yeah, it scared the crap out of me.
Yeah, not only did it scare the crap out of you, but it was just such a well-crafted jump scare. And those do exist. If you haven't watched Haunting of Hill House, watch it. and you will see one of the best jump scares you've ever seen because I don't really want to explain it that much, but it really puts you into the show a lot more. A lot of jump scares aren't there for any reason other than just cheap shots of the audience, right? The jump scare in this just made you feel like the show was real. Like it made you more into the show.
Right.
And I don't really know how to explain it without going to spoilers. I just loved it. And this show was really good. I do have very few issues with it. One of my like biggest issues is I felt like the ending could have been a lot better.
Yeah, that's probably one of my biggest complaints, if I can even call it a complaint. Because I will say the second time I watched it, because I've seen it twice, the second time I watched it kind of worked better for me, but I still think it could have been a little bit better.
Yeah. And my next complaint is that I feel like Nell wasn't that great of an actress. I feel like her actress, it wasn't bad, it wasn't terrible, but it could have been a lot better. Those are my biggest complaints with the show. Other than that, I really can't think of pretty much any. Other than just the end of the last episodes. There's a few things about it could have been handled a little better, but overall, this show was a pretty beautiful show and pretty near perfect. I loved it. I'm going to say that The Haunting of Hill House is 90% awesome.
I'm going to say that Haunting of Hill House is 98% awesome.
Who are you? I'm Daredevil.
Okay, this is the one I've been wanting to talk about forever. We might take the most time on this one. This is Daredevil Season 3. Daredevil. Oh my goodness. I'm going to start crying, guys. As you've known, Daredevil has been canceled.
Yeah, no, it's kind of sad.
And this is one of the saddest things of this year. One of them, obviously. But Daredevil to me was one of the best shows I've seen. It's probably my favorite show, like on Netflix ever.
Yeah, definitely. I'd honestly put it pretty on pace with Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
For the top shows I've ever seen.
Yeah. Season 1 was fantastic. I love Season 1. Season 2 started off perfect.
Yeah.
It started off perfect.
Yeah, like the first 4 episodes I would say was just perfection, but then just kind of like
Dwindles.
kind of dwindles off.
Yeah. But Season 3 is one of the most perfect things I've ever seen in my life. I'm going to actually say that I believe that Season 3 of Daredevil is better than Breaking Bad. I know we don't get a lot of comments, but if we do get comments, we might get talk trash for that one. But I love Season 3 of Daredevil. I actually think it was Dark Knight level.
Yeah.
Season 3
Oh
of
yeah,
Daredevil.
for sure. Which is kind of hard for me to compare a TV show to a movie.
Yeah.
But I would definitely put it on the quality of Breaking Bad and Dark Knight. Daredevil honestly has some of the best characters I've ever seen in any TV show. Not even just any superhero show, but any TV show. Because all the characters, except for like the obvious minor characters, but all the main characters and side characters all feel like pretty much like the main character.
Yeah.
Because they all have their own stories going on. They all dive deep into each of these characters that are in this show.
Yeah.
It's just crazy what they're able to do, especially in Season 3.
Yeah, and all of their stories completely lead into the final objective of this entire show. And one of the writers I was reading even said that she doesn't believe in side characters. She believes that every character is a main story of their story, of their own life. And that's completely what you find in the show. Also, a big complaint that I have with a lot of the other Marvel TV shows on Netflix is there's always this side plot that has something to do with the show or is going to have something to do with the show, but it never feels connected. Never feels connected. And you sooner or later you're like, okay, that's how it's connecting the show, but it never actually comes off as that, you know.
Yeah.
In this show, there is an agent, Agent Nadim.
Yeah.
His story starts off kind of randomly and abruptly, so it feels kind of weird. But his character, his whole side plot, which I don't even want to say side plot, his whole story and everything about him just feels completely connected to the show.
It's practically the reason the season is happening.
Yeah.
This whole story. And like you said, it starts off abruptly, but it only lasts maybe like 5-10 minutes, like just a few scenes, and then it immediately jumps into the main story, and you know exactly where it's going. And then as the season goes on, you even understand why the abrupt beginning, those scenes, why they were there. Literally every scene in the season was necessary, was needed. It added something to the plot.
Yeah, and they had a beautiful one-shot scene in the jail. Well, it was amazing. And if you ever watch the show, or if you have already, that jail scene, that really long shot, is actually one shot.
Yeah, there wasn't any secret cuts or anything. They were planning on maybe doing it, but the director or the showrunner or somebody, they said that they ran it so well that they didn't even need to do any secret cuts or anything.
And then Kingpin in this show, man. Okay, Kingpin was great in season 1, obviously, right? But in this season, he was just so amazing.
Yeah, he was freaking menacing. Like, the first season, he was scary, but like, this season just like dialed it up so much.
Yeah.
And it's like crazy because pretty much this entire season he's in captivity.
Yeah.
And he still like imposes on so many of these characters. Yeah. And he's such a big threat to Daredevil and this entire group of people.
Yeah, and you can feel the stakes in this episode, man.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even joking when I just felt like anybody could die.
Yeah.
During this entire show, I was like, okay, I'm just like, there's a certain point watching, okay, you're like, okay, anybody could die in this show. Like, I did not feel safe for one single second in the show. But the way they wrote his character, and the one thing I love about Wilson Fisk's character, the way they write him so beautifully, is he's not the big bad guy. I mean, like, he is a big bad guy, but he is a guy with a story. He's a guy who has a heart, a guy who has a mind, you know, just like it's supposed to be written as people. These are humans. And so with Wilson Fisk, even though you hate him so much, you feel bad for him if anything doesn't go according to plan for him. In a ways, you kind of feel bad for him.
Sympathetic.
You feel sympathetic, and it's so beautifully written like that. And then you have the character of Poindexter, who, oh my goodness, man, was just so amazingly written.
Which, side note, before we really go into his character, the actor Wilson Bethel, I actually read, he was actually really close to being Captain America before they cast Chris Evans. So it's kind of funny how they cast him as this character. It's like a completely different character than Captain America, but he played it so perfectly.
Yeah, and I really want him to be in more stuff because his acting is fantastic in this show.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Everything is so perfectly casted in this show. It's so beautiful. Like, Charlie Cox obviously is perfectly casted. He's been in the last all 3 seasons, and so his acting is like crazy because he's not even actually blind.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Yeah, we actually met him, and he's actually a pretty cool guy.
Yeah, and I don't even think, I think you said that he used to wear contacts?
Yeah, well, I think at the very beginning in season 1, when they first started, I think he began wearing contacts that made him kind of blind, but he said that it was too much of a hassle to have people like lead him everywhere, because he's the character who's blind, but he's not technically blind. So he has to be able to see. Yeah. But at the same time, he has to act like he's blind. Like, he can't, like, look around and look at people in the eye and all that.
Yeah. So now he just doesn't use a contact at all.
Yeah, it's just completely
And so looking at him, it's like, meeting him was so weird because he just acts like a blind person so well that when you meet him in real life, you're like, oh man, you can see me.
Yeah, and he's British.
Yeah, he's like a perfect actor. He's so perfectly casted.
And then Foggy and Karen, I've liked them pretty much throughout the whole show. In Defenders, they're kind of annoying because they're so mad at Matt when he's trying to protect them. But then this season, they really fixed both of them so well because they gave them both stories that they were going along, and they were both adding to the Matt trying to take down Wilson Fisk. Foggy, who I've always thought as pretty much a side character, they gave him like a full story on what he was trying to do to bring Wilson Fisk down. Karen got her whole episode devoted toward, well, most of an episode devoted towards
it's even called Karen.
Yeah, which I can kind of see some people saying, which I actually have seen some people say that they didn't like that episode, that it took away from the momentum, and I can kind of see that, but at the same time, it added to the character of Karen so well, and it added to the stakes of that entire episode because you see what a tragic past she has, and then to see her now fighting for her life, it just added so much shit.
And yeah, sadly the show was canceled, but thankfully it really just ties up a lot of stuff at the end of it.
It does.
I mean, there are some stuff left over for a new season, but overall, even though I'm so crazy sad about it being over, because it was literally just a show that was just utter perfection. Season three primarily, just utter perfection. Even though I'm sad, it did finish off well. It did finish off really well. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say that Daredevil Season 3 is 100% awesome.
Now, I'm also going to say that Daredevil Season 3 is 100% awesome.
So, guys, while we are on our break, the sad news of Stan Lee passing away was announced. That's kind of why we decided to replace all of our stuff up here with Marvel Comics, and we have Spider-Man right here in the what is it called? The forefront. Most of the front ground. Forefront. Yeah. Stan Lee, man, that guy. We actually met him.
I actually was lucky enough to meet him 3 times.
Yeah.
So it was nice.
Yeah, and you know, one of the greatest things about him is that dude. He really cared about people. You could tell because in his comics, a lot of his comics, he had X-Men that was over civil rights movement. He had Black Panther, who he actually created. He was wasn't just the head of Marvel and like accepted it. Like he was one of the co-creators of Black Panther. Mm. Black Panther, especially back in the '60s. Yeah, that was a huge risk for him.
Right. Yeah. For sure.
And he was really, obviously, he's a really big inspiration to us, and we just love him. And it's just so sad to hear about his passing. But thankfully, he had such a great life, and I'm so glad I got to meet him.
Yeah, and also he was able to film a lot of cameos, so we at least have that to look forward to, a few more cameos.
Yeah.
And also something else I want to bring up is that Steve Ditko, who actually co-created a lot of the Marvel characters with Stan Lee, actually died this year too, back in July, I think. Mm-hmm. I think it was back in summer. But it's just strange how they both died in the same year, and they both created all these Marvel characters.
Well, guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, comment and let us know what you thought about these movies. Maybe you disagree with us. We definitely disagree with each other on 2 of them.
And don't forget to follow us on social media. We have a Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all at 2 Awesome Men.
And as always, thank you so much for watching, and thank you, Stan Lee.
Thank you, Steve Ditko.